Humans aren't born out of laying around on their asses. We've been born out of conquering a world. We're the dominant species. We built all this. We're powerful, and we're beautiful, and we're ready to build the next level of civilization in God's plan. But you must stop bowing to those who want to make you a victim. You must become the victor. If you love God and you want to build a pro-human future, then you are an enemy of the New World Order and Satanism. They want us shut down because we have the Spirit. I'm jacked into the source. I know the secret, and I want to see you empowered. But you have to believe in yourself first. This is the truth, and everyone knows it.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is not a good day for the mainstream media. Donald Trump's administration and the president of El Salvador absolutely obliterated them from orbit. And it's one thing for Trump to humiliate you, but when the president of El Salvador, in this important meeting, when you're sitting here with these two leaders, for the president of El Salvador to look at CNN and go, your question is preposterous. Like, the mainstream media is never going to recover. It never is going to be what it once was. It is going to die a slow, lingering death, and what's going to replace it is honest conversations from online content creators. As much as I loathe content creators, people like NMPLL, Extra Emily, Moist Critical, The Act Man, I could go on and on and on. A lot of these people are genuinely terrible, but the thing that is giving me hope is that the internet does, every once in a while, choose somebody to represent them, at least when it comes to getting information that is at least halfway sensible and reasonable. And I do appreciate that about the internet, that sometimes they do get things wrong, but they're a lot more based, they're a lot more willing to question the narrative than some of the older generations that just listen to some of the big three broadcasts. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, let's watch Donald Trump respond to a question from CNN about this Maryland man. That's how they're discussing it. Maryland man. So this guy is an illegal criminal in the country, shouldn't be here, a member of MS-13. He's a citizen of El Salvador. But the media is labeling him the Maryland man. Like he's a Maryland resident, citizen of the United States, and he was just deported because, Trump is rounding people up. The truth around the story, and I'm going to do another video on Stephen Miller talking to the media where he absolutely eviscerates them. I'm not being hyperbolic. He destroys them in a way that it's hard for me to really articulate. So I'm excited to do that video as well. But I'm going to separate them because they're different enough. This is one incident. We're going to talk about the other one in a later video. But without further ado, let's listen to this question.
To help return the man who your administration says was mistakenly
Which one is
deported. The man who was mistakenly deported to El Salvador?
Well, let me ask Pam, would you answer that question?
Sure, President. First and foremost, he was illegally in our country. He had been illegally in our country. And in 2019, two courts, an immigration court and an appellate immigration court, ruled that he was a member of MS-13 and he was illegally in our country. Right now, it was additional paperwork had needed to be done. That's up to El Salvador if they want to return him. That's not up to us. The Supreme Court ruled, President, that if, as El Salvador wants to return him, this is international matters, foreign affairs, if they wanted to return him, we would facilitate it, meaning provide a plane.
So will you return him, President?
And you are doing a great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Stephen Miller, wait a minute. Can you just also respond to that question? Because, it's asked by CNN, and they always ask it with a slant. Because they're totally slanted because they don't know what's happening. That's why nobody's watching them. But would you answer that question also, please?
Yes.
They got a slant. I gotta stand. That's why nobody's watching. Don't worry. This is not the best of it. The best is yet to come.
Gladly. So, as Pam mentioned, there's an illegal alien from El Salvador. So, with respect to you, he's a citizen of El Salvador. So, it's very arrogant even for American media to suggest that we would even tell El Salvador how to handle their own citizens as a starting point. As 2 immigration courts found that he was a member of MS-13. When President Trump declared MS-13 to be a foreign terrorist organization, that meant that he was no longer eligible under federal law, which I'm sure you know, you're very familiar with the INA, that he was no longer eligible for any form of immigration relief in the United States. So he had a deportation order that was valid, which meant that under our law, he's not even allowed to be present in the United States and had to be returned because of the foreign terrorist designation. This issue was then, by a district court judge, completely inverted, and a district court judge tried to tell the administration that they had to kidnap a citizen of El Salvador and fly him back here. That issue was raised to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said the district court order was unlawful, and its main components were reversed 9-0 unanimously, stating clearly that neither Secretary of State nor the President could be compelled by anybody to forcibly retrieve a citizen of El Salvador from El Salvador, who again is a member of MS-13,
right,
which, as I'm sure you understand, rapes little girls, murders women, murders children, is engaged in the most barbaric activities in the world, and I can promise you, if he was your neighbor, you would move right away.
That is a phenomenal answer. The media has done such a disservice to this country, to this topic, to basically themselves as well, by calling this guy the Maryland Man, by framing it as though he were a lawful resident, that everything was fine, that Trump administration deported a citizen. That's the way it's being framed. Everyone's calling him the Maryland Man. He is a member of MS-13. Stephen Miller has to explain this to our media because they are so evil and so criminally retarded that they actually believe in their own propaganda at this point. They are so criminally retarded that they believe in their own propaganda. This guy was not a citizen. He was not a lawful resident. He was an illegal. In 2019, under Joe Biden, the worst president to ever exist, under Joe Biden, under that court system, they determined that he was a member of MS-13. It was appealed, and the appellate court found that he was a member of MS-13. And I mean, this whole thing is a infinitesimally insignificant clerical error by a rogue member who has since been fired. They're no longer at their job. A rogue member, made a quote-unquote mistake, so that this illegal criminal alien didn't have to be deported. Well, guess what? It didn't work. He's in his home country. He's in prison where he belongs. And guess what? A lot more are going to be following right behind him. It is unconscionable that the media is framing this as though this person were mistakenly deported. No. And the thing is, in the other video where we're going to watch from Stephen Miller, he actually, and this is one of the ways where he absolutely destroys the press, revealing that these people know absolutely nothing. He asks them point blank, what do you think happens to this guy if we bring him back? What do you think happens? And one of the members of the media says, he gets to see his family. And Stephen Miller goes, no, he will be detained in one of the facilities that we have for illegal immigrants. He will then be reprocessed and he'll be flown right back out. That's the fate of this guy. They literally want to bring him back in as a publicity stunt, as a show of power to stall Trump, and this guy's just going to be sent right back out. He's an El Salvador citizen that was here illegally, a member of MS-13. That is the due process. The due process is that this guy went through a court system under Biden that was slow-walking him and allowing him to be here. The crisis that the Democrats have caused, the harm that they've done to the American people, I don't think that people should ever let them forget it. The lives that have been lost, the people that have been hurt. I mean, we could talk about the jobs and stuff like that, but I mean, you look at Lake and Riley, you look at a lot of these cases, and the media doesn't give a single shit. They don't care about Lake and Riley. They don't care about the women that have been raped and murdered and just absolutely brutalized. They don't care about the children that have gone through hell. No, these people only care about themselves. And being that one person to get the soundbite that makes Trump angry and gets them in the news so that they can get a little bit more money. And the fact is, these people are absolute soul-sucking scum. There is nothing in the world that is remotely appropriate about defending and supporting illegal immigration, illegal aliens in this country, but more specifically than that, illegal criminal gang members. That's what we're talking about here. We're talking about the worst of the worst. El Salvador looked into this guy as well and determined that he was a member of MS-13. So, two governments have done the due diligence, but he's an El Salvador citizen. And guess what? As he's locked up in the El Salvador prison, there's no chance he's going to be able to come back and, creep across the border. I am just absolutely beside myself on this topic because Democrats and the left allowed this to happen. They allowed this crisis to continue. They denied it for years. They downplayed it. They gaslit Republicans every time that somebody died or was violated. The 300,000 some odd children that are missing. Every time these freaks, these subhuman animals on the left, didn't care. It didn't affect me. I want a virtue signal. As I'm drinking my Starbucks coffee and drinking my tablet made by Chinese slave labor and those children over there, I want a virtue signal on these phones. I want a virtue signal from the Starbucks. And one of the ways that these freaks virtue signal is by defending criminals as though it's a civil rights issue, as though there's some form of injustice here. Meanwhile, real people are being brutalized, killed, stolen from. And it's more than time to tell these people at the bare minimum, no. Trump, I think, doesn't go far enough. I disagree with a lot of other people. Oh, Trump's extreme. No, he's not. You have people in this country in elected office, people in the media who are actively promoting things that are against the United States. You have people that are committing treason. I'm not being hyperbolic when I say that. The media is desperately trying to bring back a criminal, illegal gang member into the United States. Their solution, they want this guy brought back and freed. That is insanity. These people that are promoting this should be arrested. They are, you want to talk about a call to violence or call to action. We have people that are actively in our media and in our government that are actively saying that U.S. tax dollars should be used to release criminals onto our street, which is exactly what they've been doing for years. Joe Biden has been using your and my tax dollars to bus and fly illegal criminal aliens across the country. This isn't a conspiracy theory. This is something that we know to be true. They've been caught multiple times. They've been fighting this for years. And now that we have a president that says, no, we're closing down the border. We're not allowing this to continue. We're going to actually make a stand. We're going to get the criminals out. Now the lawyers and all the judges and all the Democrats and all the media, all of a sudden now they care. Now they care about the border. This is so infuriating. I delight in watching these freaks get annihilated in videos like this because they deserve it. They deserve to be humiliated. They deserve to go to jail. You are aiding and abetting criminals that harm Americans. You are aiding and abetting criminals that harm Americans. I will never back down on this issue. No. You are aiding and abetting. You are attempting to help some of the worst people in the world, and you don't even have a passing thought for the victims or their families. You don't care if you're in the media. You don't care if they're in the Democrat Party. You don't stand up and clap for them when you have the opportunity to. You don't support them. You are just scornful that they exist because they make you look bad. But you are bad. You are evil. That's what you are. You are evil. You are evil people that put your petty materialism and your need to be seen as a good person over actually doing good. That is astonishing. That is insane. You put your materialism and your need to be perceived as a good person over actually doing good, over actual good. It is one of the most pathetic and just desperate things that I've ever seen. You would fight this hard to bring a criminal, illegal alien back into this country. Use lawfare to do it. Use the media to do it. To bring back a criminal. And you treat him as though he's some kind of hero. He's some kind of Maryland man who's a victim of the system. You freaks are insane. You should be in jail for the damage that you've done by ignoring illegal immigration, allowing it to fester to what it is, opening the border for anyone that wants to come in. And then once people who were illegals started doing real world crime, from traffic violations, getting into car wrecks, killing people in car wrecks, to outright just murdering people. Laken Riley, the guy wanted to rape her, and she fought back, and so he killed her with a rock. And I'm supposed to sit here as an American citizen and say, no, I care about the due process of this animal. No, I care about the his due process. His due process is that the family doesn't get to end his life. That's his due process. The government steps in and says, we're going to deport you. Do you understand? Laken Riley and her family, that guy, yeah, prosecuted. Yeah, he's going to jail. We're going to have to pay for it for the rest of his miserable life. Donald Trump is saying, I've got a better way. Instead of us paying for the rest of his life, he's going to go to El Salvador. He's going to go to this prison here. This is where we're going to deport him. So he's no longer in our prison systems. He's no longer in our country. He was an illegal in the first place. He's out of here. I support Trump on this 100%, and I cannot believe that there's anyone who doesn't. If you mention due process in the face of this, you are a genuine retard.
So you don't plan
But
to
the
ask for
Supreme
it
Court is
to get it
asking
back?
to.
Is that
What was the ruling
Facilitate-
in the Supreme Court, Steve? Was it 9-0?
Yes, it was a 9-0
In our favor.
in our favor against the district court ruling, saying that no district court has the power to compel the foreign policy function of the United States. As Pam said, the ruling solely stated that if this individual at El Salvador's sole discretion was sent back to our country, that we could deport him a second time.
Well,
no version of this legally ends up with him ever living here because he is a citizen of El Salvador. That is the president of El Salvador. Your questions about it, per the court, can only be directed to him.
I asked
¿Usted lo
President
liberaría,
Bukele,
Presidente
what is
Bukele?
can President Bukele weigh in on this? Do you plan to return him?
Well, I'm supposed to be suggesting that I smuggle a terrorist into the United States, right?
It's always
how can I smuggle? How can I return him to the United States? Like I smuggle him into the United States, or what do I do? Of course, I'm not going to do it. It's like, the question is preposterous. How can I smuggle a terrorist into the United States?
The question is preposterous. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Hey, will you release one of your terrorist citizens so that he can be flown back so that the media can feel like they have some modicum of power over the administration and thus costing the American taxpayers more money and, making us a little bit less safe? Can you do that? No. No going to do. Afuera, media. Afuera. Out.
I don't have the power to return him to the United States.
But you could release him inside El Salvador.
Yeah, but I'm not releasing. We're not very fond of releasing terrorists into our country. We just turned the murder capital of the world into the safest country of the Western Hemisphere, and you want us to go back into the releasing criminals so we can go back to being the murder capital of the world? No, that's not going to happen.
That's such a phenomenal answer. Wait, you mean to tell me you want me to release a terrorist so that we can go back to being the murder capital of the world? Like, this guy's answer is just, mwah, it is so completely perfect.
Well, they'd love to have a criminal, released into our country.
There's a fascination.
They would love it.
Yeah.
They're sick. These are sick people.
Oh my God. These are sick people. These are sick people. God, I love him so much. I've been a Trump supporter for a long time. Before all of these other people coming on to pretend, Bill Maher, Trump's such a nice guy. Asmongold calling Trump a psychopath, which I thought was interesting. He's a Bernie supporter, but he doesn't like Trump. And then, like Nux Taku becoming a Trump supporter. Now, all of these people hated Trump not that long ago, but I've been a Trump supporter for a long time. And I am just enjoying his second term so much. It's not because of the catastrophe that we avoided with Kamala Harris. But I mean, just the way he talks about the media, I love it.
Love it.
Yeah.
They're sick. These are sick people. Marco, do you have something to say about it?
Yeah, Stephen outlined it. I don't understand what the confusion is. This individual is a citizen of El Salvador. He was illegally in the United States and was returned to his country. That's where you deport people, back to their country of origin. Except for Venezuela, that wasn't refusing to take people back, or places like that. I can tell you this, Mr. President. No, the foreign policy of the United States is conducted by the President of the United States, not by a court. And no court in the United States has a right to conduct the foreign policy of the United States. It's that simple. End of story.
And that's what the Supreme Court held, by the way, to Marco's point. The Supreme Court said exactly what Marco said, that no court has the authority to compel the foreign policy function of the United States. We won a case 9-0, and people like CNN are portraying it as a loss, as usual, because they want foreign terrorists in the country who kidnap women and children. But President Trump, his policy is foreign terrorists that are here illegally get expelled from the country, which, by the way, is a 90-10 issue.
Well, Mr. President, you said that if the Supreme Court said someone needed to be...
That's true. The Democrats are at 26% approval and dropping. But yeah, no, that's the reason why. Because you can say, well, the tariffs. Yeah, on one hand, you have tariffs. Trump wants to bring manufacturing back into the United States. He wants to bring jobs back here. He wants us to become less reliant on China. And the media paints that as terrible and bad. But the Democrats also support illegal immigration, criminal illegal aliens being in this country, and they've demonstrated that they don't care about the working man. They don't care about the everyday man and woman. If the everyday man and woman gets in the way of them virtue signaling over illegal immigration, well, then the everyday man and woman of the United States get put on the back burner. They get put in their place. You're beneath these illegal immigrants because they fall higher on our victim pyramid, and we can use them to virtue more than we can use you. It's insane, it's immoral, it's creepy, it's deranged, but it's what the Democrats do. It's what they represent. And so I don't think that there's any way that the Democrats, I shouldn't say anyway, I don't see that there's any legal and fair way that the Democrats regain control of the House and Senate. If people are going to vote for Democrats, that has to be a lot of really self-loathing people. Because, or people that just don't have to deal with the consequences of their own actions, these NIMBYist liberals. I don't understand how you vote for people who want to bring these criminal aliens back.
Be returned, that you would abide by that. You said that on Air Force One just a few days ago, and they said that it must be facilitated.
Why don't you just say, isn't it wonderful that we're keeping criminals out of our country? Why can't you just say that? Why do you go over and over? And that's why nobody watches you anymore. You have no credibility. Please go ahead.
President Trump, thank you so much. How many illegal criminals are you planning on exporting to El Salvador? And President Bukele, how many are you willing to take from the U.S.?
Did she just really ask him how many criminal illegal aliens are you willing to deport? The answer is all of them. The answer is all of them.
As many as possible.
Yeah.
And I just asked the president, it's this massive complex that he built, jail complex. I said, can you build some more of them, please? As many as we can get out of our country that were allowed in here by incompetent Joe Biden through open borders. Open borders. You probably hear open borders and you can't even understand it because nobody can understand. Nobody smart or with common sense can understand it. So we have millions of people that should not be in this country that are dangerous. Not just people, because we have people, but we have millions of people that are murderers, drug dealers. They've been allowed to come into our country by other countries that were very smart. When they
Anyway, yep, that's the video, ladies and gentlemen. The president of El Salvador is incredibly based. I mean, it's such a preposterous question. And yet the media asks it because they hate Trump that much. They're that desperate for virtue points that much. It's astonishing to me. It really is. I understand the mechanics of it. I understand how disgusting and corrupt these people are. But when you really actually sit down and you think about it, like, what are they asking? What do they want? What are they advocating for? When you really stop to think about it, it genuinely is one of the most despicable things that I've ever seen. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that'll do it for today's video. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.